Now, let me ask you this question. Some of you are too young to understand this question, but let me ask you this question. Does your chewing gum really lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? Has anyone actually tried? My job in this choir from the age of 4 was to walk on 3 times during one of his big hits that we were singing, obviously about 10, 15 years after it was a hit. And My Old Man's a Dustman. It was my job to walk in and go, I say, I say, I say. Would you like to hear one of them? I'm not going to read them all. I'll just give you one. I'm going to be a bit schizophrenic here because it's a double act, but here we go. And my mother would do it with me. I say, I say, I say. What, you again? And I would say, my dustbin is full of toadstools. How do you know it's full? Because there's not much room inside. Some of you, that's brought back happy memories. Some of you now understand why I am the way I am. The point is this. You see, sometimes we'll find ourselves singing the song of our parents. And what we need to be able to do is sing the song that Father sings over our life. Understand his melody. And those are songs of comfort in Isaiah 40, verse 1. Those are songs of victory in 1 Samuel 17, verse 47. They're songs of love found in 1 John 4, verse 8. We begin to hear heaven's melody over our life, and we begin to join in with something of that song, that melody, that orchestra of heaven, and we begin to dance our life to a different tune. Someone has put it this way, that we walk to the beat of a different drummer. Well, of course we do, because heaven's melody over you is of victory, of comfort, and love. When you have those 3 songs, that heavenly tune playing around in your heart, and you begin to live life in a way that is growing in sanctified holiness, people around you won't understand it, but they will thirst for what you have. Isn't it amazing to have a song to sing? And finally, and in the last 6 minutes or so before we take our offering, I'm just reminding you, because I haven't forgotten, get ready. We need to raise our shout. And I drew some principles here from Joshua chapter 6, and I'm not going to read all the chapter to you, but if you are making notes, you want to make a note of Joshua 6, 2-5, verse 10 and verse 20. You see, there is a power not only in an individual story, in an individual song, but in a corporate voice as well. The church united, the church coming together. And here are 4 quick things from Joshua 6, not necessarily about walls falling down, but about the principle of a corporate voice. The first thing that we need to understand is that there is unity. Unity. In verse 5, we hear Joshua say these words, when you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have all the people shout with a loud shout. Unity is something that comes out of a common purpose. It comes out of a common understanding of why we're here, what God has saved us for, what we're to do in our city and our surrounding area. We begin to understand that we work together to see things change, because together we're stronger than if we're on our own. We begin to believe fully in the cause that Christ has called us to. The second thing, other than unity, is that we understand that there is timing, that it has to be timed properly. Joshua in verse 10 of chapter 6 says this, he commanded the people, do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout, then shout. Have you ever been singing a new song in church? It's happened to me quite regularly, where you sing the new song and you're trying to learn it, and the worship team are doing their best, and we're blessed with some great musicians in the church, aren't we? We love our musicians, they're brilliant. And so, but you've heard it on a CD somewhere, and it's sung slightly differently. So you don't understand that the musicians are going to play a bar and a half in between the verses. Oh, we're on familiar ground now, aren't we? You know what's coming next. So you think it's going to start there, and then we get this la, and it's just you. And everybody kind of sniggers. Oh, I'm glad it wasn't me. Oh. You ever had that embarrassing moment? We've all done it if we've been around church long enough. We've all had that kind of experience. we have to time what we say to our city so that we say it together with one voice. Otherwise, we just sound like the lone person going, "Ah," and then sort of clamming up with embarrassment, thinking, "I'll never try that again." Timing is critical in influencing our city. We need to be able to say the right thing, but also we need to say it at the right time. And when we say it, it needs to be appropriate. When we have a corporate voice together, it needs to be appropriate. In verse 20, we read, "When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed." We need to shout to our city to be appropriate. If the only thing that we can ever say to our city is words of condemnation, we are in trouble. You say, "Oh, that's not fair, Keith. The city's in a bad way. We need to do things. We need to, I think we need to be change agents in our city. But if all we're doing is condemning our city, then I think we're in trouble." You say, "Oh, the prophets, they always condemn the city in the Old Testament. So surely we should march around our city and we should shout and we should do all these sort of things." Well, we can do that and we can do all those sort of things. But I'm not sure how productive that is, considering prophet Jeremiah, who prophesied an exile over the people and they were taken into Babylon, also prophesied these words in Jeremiah 29 verse 7. He said, "Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, for if it prospers, you too will prosper." Those are powerful words. To be giving a corporate voice of appropriate blessing over our city takes a mindset for a lot of Christians that has to change a mindset so that we're able to say we want to bless where we live, not curse it. We want to lift it up to God and not ask him to destroy it, but intercede for it and say, "Lord, if there are just 10 people out there," well, that sounds Abrahamic, doesn't it? If there are just 10 people out there, will you spare this place? We need to start blessing the city and encouraging the city. And we do that corporately. And finally, from Joshua 6, I want you to know that you're valued. When you hear the sound, this is verse 5, when you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have all the people give a loud shout. And then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in. Your shout is valuable. It's valuable. See, none of us can do this on our own. None of us can have an influence in our city just on our own. Everybody needs somebody to help them. And in this room, in this church, for those who call Life Church their home church, I want you to know your shout is valued. But it needs to be given in unity, it needs to be timed right, it needs to be appropriate, but it is valued for all the people who are required. See, if we shout on our own, we sound like a bigot. If we shout on our own, we sound like a bigot, even if what we're saying is true. But if we shout as a corporate body, well, we sound like an army. We sound like people who have a heart for the city to see it changed. And so in wrapping this up, well, I want you to have confidence in your story, in your testimony. It has value. It has the answer to someone's need, if you would but share it with them. Have faith that the Father is still singing over you, and learn his melody for your life, and dance your life to the sound of his melody, and have passion for your church and its ministry as it seeks to reach the lost and influence this city. In other words, raise your voice. Raise your voice and have confidence in him who has given you something to say.